I would call it a millennial and Gen Z uprising for the
Mm.
workplace. She started out earlier in that quote saying, I didn't think I could get, I didn't think I could be in a union. I'm like a fast food worker. And that really
Wow.
says a lot too. And so these people all over the country now, they had won elections in over 600 stores in the last 4 years, 12,000 workers who are now union workers in Starbucks, taking on a massive brand who is not the store we used to think about it 40, 30, 40 years ago. So
Right.
when I saw those young people in the rough cut, I was sold.
I love when Wisconsin filmmakers join the show. This next gentleman is, we've never had him on before, but he's got a great movie coming out called Baristas versus Billionaires. And it's going to be at the Barrymore this week for 2 nights. And the filmmaker has agreed graciously to join us here tonight to talk about this, what sounds like just a phenomenal film, Mr. Glenn Silber. Hey, Glenn, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for making this work short notice. It's great to have you here. And I love having guests on the show that I've never met, but I realize when I do my research that I've seen your work before. You've had this prolific career making documentaries and TV specials and all kinds of work. And I applaud you because your resume is incredible. You're also a University of Wisconsin grad. That's not lost on our audiences here. So congratulations on that.
Barely grad.
Oh, I like you even more now. I was a solid C student, so I can kind of relate to that last statement you made there, Glenn. Um, so you're a very accomplished documentarian, but do you have a favorite football movie? I have to ask you that
I
first.
did. I was trying to think of it. I was desperately trying to think of it. It was one that's probably from the late 60s or 70s, and I was racking my brain and I just can't remember it. It's one where it was based on a biography of a Dallas Cowboy lineman, I think. And it's a great movie where they are just having a bitter rivalry, and at the end they go to win the game, and the field goal kicker clunks it off the upright. And I'll have to get back to you on the title. I just couldn't remember it. It's a great film based on a biography of, I'm pretty sure, a Dallas Cowboy pro, a real
Are you
pro.
thinking of North Dallas 40?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a great movie. It was one of the first movies I saw on HBO when I was like in sixth grade or something, and I couldn't believe I was watching
Well, I
that. So
can't
it's a
remember
great
much of
choice.
anything anymore. So thank you for finding that and resurrecting. It'll save me some sleep tonight.
Well, I'm glad. Happy to help any way I can. This is really fun. You're an Oscar nominated, Emmy nominated filmmaker. Your work has won WGA awards and all kinds of great stuff. You've got Baristas versus Billionaires at the Barrymore this week. Tell us about this really cool sounding documentary and where you got the idea.
Well, let me start by saying this is the first film in a 50-year career that I was not the director. I was called by the director, who's a friend of mine named Mark Morai, and he'd been working on it for 2 years, and he was really in a bad way because he just couldn't see the movie anymore. He had a very long rough cut, and he asked me to look at it, and one thing led to another, and I wound up spending the last 8 months working on it with him to get it into shape. And it's really, I mean, we took out 20 minutes of a kind of a long rough cut, added material, rewrote everything, and I'm pretty good at doctoring documentaries. And I signed on to it because after we got rid of the first 12 minutes, you could really see a film starting to emerge with these great young characters. And the film is really Baristas versus Billionaires tells the story of the inside story of the Starbucks Workers United Union, which started 4 years ago in Buffalo, New York, a town the same size as Madison, pretty much. And it was really just a small, young group of kids who were pissed off at how they were being treated. It wasn't just about pay. It was really about, their practices of speeding them up and not having enough staff and not treating them with much respect. And they formed the very first Starbucks union store ever in Buffalo, New York, and they won the elections and it caught fire, and within the next couple of years they were signing up 5 stores a week, all winning their own elections. And what's so amazing about it, by the time it started traveling all over the country, there's a quote I love from the store in Memphis where they went and won an election. And the organizer there, who was like a 22-year-old young woman's call, says, I would call it a millennial and Gen Z uprising for the
Mm.
workplace. She started out earlier in that quote saying, I didn't think I could get, I didn't think I could be in a union. I'm like a fast food worker. And that really
Wow.
says a lot too. And so these people all over the country now, they won elections in over 600 stores in the last 4 years, 12,000 workers who are now union workers in Starbucks, taking on a massive brand who is not the store we used to think about it 40 years ago. So
Right.
when I saw those young people in the rough cut, I was sold. I was just charmed by them.
What do you say to people like when you have a film like this? There's a sentiment out there I've noticed on social media where there are people that don't think they deserve benefits, and so many people defend billionaires who could easily afford to take care of people. But do we have a masochistic outlook in our society or something? Think about that. We're going to do a very quick break, Glenn, and then let's come back and address that question. Glenn Silber is here. He is one of the producers of the film Baristas versus Billionaires. It's playing Wednesday and Thursday night in Madison at the Barrymore. It just looks like a fantastic film. We're going to come back and have a few more minutes with Glenn before we let him go. Bob Dennis is here at 6:35. It is great to have you, folks. This is Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pete Schwaba. This is Nightlight. Great to have you with me, folks. Lots of show still to come. Bob Dennis, our Northeast Wisconsin mob expert, will be here in just a few minutes. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, we've got, we're going to talk a little bit about the Wade House, one of the many great Wisconsin Historical Society campuses, if you will, with Bridget Zilke. She'll be here shortly. Right now, we have a few more minutes with our current guest, the very accomplished documentarian Glenn Silber, who is a Wisconsin native. Glenn, do you not live in Wisconsin anymore?
No, I was here for 12 years, starting in as a student, and I then wound up doing some work for the corporate world in terms of making a living for a while. That was interesting for CBS News and ABC News. And now I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which
Oh,
is
nice.
delightful. Very nice.
Yeah, wonderful place. You've got, so I was asking you before why there is a certain segment of society that apologizes for billionaires and they think other people don't deserve stuff. Is that a mentality you've come across?
No, that's a new one on me. I don't know many people that apologize for billionaires, and I don't see why you would.
They could be bots.
The whole we're living in a billionaire economy now, and the billionaire economy is not interested in their workers; they're interested in their share price. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for that because I think one of the things that's driving this strike that this union is having now against Starbucks is the fact that there was a survey done a couple of years ago, maybe more like a year ago, of the top 500 companies in America, and they were rating it. The employees were rating it for burnout, exhaustion, and depression. And out of 500 companies, Starbucks was rated in the top five worst for that.
Wow.
And it's that kind of lack of respect for workers right now. Pete, I think that the working class and low wage workers are under assault by that billionaire class you're talking about. And it's so stupid because for very little money, they could treat their workers so much better. And there's some kind of a mentality. I have zero sympathy for billionaires, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that if you see the film, you'll see why these workers are now on strike in 85 cities across the country. And I think you'll see why the mayor-elect of New York and Bernie Sanders was on their picket line last week and made a lot of news. And I think we're really at a turning point where what's so inspiring to me is seeing these young people. One of the heroes of the film is 19 years old when she confronts Howard Schultz, who comes into town for a special meeting to try to crush the union. And she pretty much crushes him. And it's just amazing to see. I don't think I would have signed on to the movie if it wasn't for the fact that the young people organizers, at least in Buffalo, are really the ones who get it together.
That's great. Wow. You've done some great stuff, Glenn. The War at Home, the Matthew Shepard story. You also were either one of the creators or contributors to this show I remember back from the late 80s called West 57. I think Bob Surratt was the host. How is journalism or news magazines like that? How has it changed?
Well, that was the luckiest break in my life. I had just had my first child, and I had a break when I was back in New York showing him off, and someone offered me to come and interview for West 57th. It was pitched on CBS News as a hip 60 Minutes, and
Yeah.
Bob Surratt, who was from Chicago, was kind of a DJ, but we also had Meredith Vieira. Later on, Steve Croft joined. And boy, I really didn't know how good I had it, because I'd been a radical filmmaker up to that point for like 15 years, and I was barely making my rent. And all of a sudden, someone said, "Well, do you want to go interview at CBS for this new show?" Now, you got to imagine, Pete, I hadn't had a TV since I left home as a teenager. And I thought the bubble over my head is, what am I going to do at CBS? Like the windows? And it turned out I was really good at that. And I rode that wave for 20 years in between my documentary careers. And I'm amazed you actually mentioned that show, because I won an Emmy, my first Emmy for the show, was the first Emmy for a show when I was also the only one living in Los Angeles, which was such an advantage. Everyone else was back at the mothership in New York. I did this piece on children of the homeless called Homeless in America, Suffer the Children. It was like a 4 hanky piece, and it just rocked the world at that moment to show the changing nature of being homeless in America.
Wow.
So I was really proud to be on that show. Yeah.
Yeah, you're also Oscar nominated. You've got a host of awards and did some great work for PBS, 60 Minutes, 2020. Just a phenomenal career. I would love for you to come back sometime, Glenn, and discuss more in detail some of the cool things you've done. But I really appreciate your time tonight. And for those of you listening in the Madison area, check out Baristas versus Billionaires this Wednesday and Thursday night at the Barrymore in Madison. It sounds like a great time, and I hope you have a great turnout.
Well, thank you. And I can just promise, if you come to the show, it may be cold outside, but you leave inspired and feeling really warm inside. It's that kind of movie.
Conrad, does that sound familiar? I just did that. But Glenn, we
We
had
one
a
last
screening of
thing.
a film I did last Thursday, and I think I said the same thing on social media. The Atwood Music Hall will be warm with laughter, but it's freezing outside, so I hope you get...
That's where I found that line. And, I just want to mention also, we're going to have a panel discussion afterwards on stage
cool.
with several of the baristas who are on strike right now, and I'll be happy to be part of that.
Outstanding.
On both nights.
Knock 'em dead, Glenn. I hope you have a great turnout, and don't be a stranger. Would love to talk to you again sometime.
Anytime you want.
All right, that's Glenn Silber. Check out Baristas versus Billionaires at the Barrymore. A wonderful, awesome location. I've hosted many a Q&A there myself during the Wisconsin Film Festival. A great venue, especially for a film like this.